Welcome to the DX Today podcast, your daily deep dive into the AI ecosystem. I'm Chris, and joining me as always is Laura.
Hey, Chris. So today we're diving into something that's hitting really close to home for a lot of people. We're talking about AI-driven layoffs, and March 2026 has been an absolutely brutal month for tech workers.
It really has. The numbers are staggering. 45,000 tech layoffs in March alone. And what's really different about this round is how many of those cuts are being explicitly blamed on AI.
Right, so here's the key number. Over 9,200 of those layoffs, about 20%, were explicitly attributed by the companies themselves to AI and automation. And that's a massive jump from 2025, when AI was cited as a factor in fewer than 8% of layoff announcements. So we've more than doubled in just 1 year.
And the poster child for this trend has to be Block, Jack Dorsey's company behind Square, Cash App, and Afterpay. They cut 40% of their workforce. That's 4,000 people gone, taking the company from over 10,000 employees down to under 6,000.
That's the one that really made everyone sit up and pay attention. And what's remarkable is how unapologetic Dorsey was about it. He put it right in the shareholder letter. Quote, "Intelligence tools have changed what it means to build and run a company. A significantly smaller team using the tools we're building can do more and do it better." End quote.
And then the line that sent chills through every corporate office in America.
Oh, yes. Everyone is going to be doing this soon. That's what he said. And the market loved it, Chris. Block stock jumped 24% after the announcement. Wall Street basically said, "We reward you for replacing humans with AI."
Which creates this perverse incentive, right? If the market rewards massive AI-driven layoffs with a 24% stock bump, what message does that send to every other CEO?
It sends a very clear message, and I think that's what makes the Block situation so significant. This isn't a struggling company cutting costs to survive. This is a profitable company proactively restructuring around AI because they believe smaller teams with AI tools are genuinely more productive.
Let's talk about the tool that made this possible. Block has this internal AI agent called Goose. What do we know about it?
Goose is fascinating. It's an AI agent that sits on top of large language models and can execute actions, draft emails, automate workflows. It's been in production internally at Block for about 18 months. And here's the really interesting part. They open sourced it. So they're not just using AI to cut their own workforce, they're giving other companies the tools to do the same thing.
That's a bold move. You build a tool that lets you fire 4,000 people and then you publish the blueprints for the world.
It is bold, and I think it reflects Dorsey's genuine belief that this is the future of how companies operate. He's not trying to hide it or soften it. He's saying this is inevitable. Here are the tools. Get ready.
Let's zoom out from Block to the broader landscape. You mentioned 45,000 tech layoffs in March. Where are the other big cuts coming from?
Amazon is the biggest by sheer numbers. Over 30,000 job cuts, which is more than half of the total. They're flattening management layers and expanding AI infrastructure. Google, Microsoft, Meta, Intel, they've all had substantial reductions too. And 80% of these global cuts are concentrated in the United States. That's 24,600 jobs just in the US.
What kinds of roles are being eliminated? Is there a pattern?
There is, and it's actually broader than most people realize. The obvious ones are customer support and content moderation, roles that involve processing information according to rules. But we're also seeing significant cuts in software development, logistics planning, financial modeling, and marketing. Even senior AI roles at Microsoft got cut, which is ironic.
Wait, Microsoft laid off AI people? The company that's betting everything on AI?
Yep. Even within AI-focused companies, there's a sorting happening. They don't need as many people building AI tools because the AI tools are getting good enough to help build themselves. It's like a recursive efficiency loop.
That's wild. Now, there's been some really important academic research on this. Harvard Business School published a study in HBR this month. What did they find?
This is one of the most comprehensive studies I've seen. Researchers from Harvard, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and Ohio State analyzed nearly all U.S. job postings from 2019 through March 2025. And they found that after ChatGPT launched in November 2022, job postings for automation-prone roles declined by 13%.
13% is significant. But there's a flip side to the data, right?
There is, and this is the part people need to hear. Demand for what they call augmentation-prone roles, jobs where AI enhances human capabilities rather than replacing them, grew by 20%. So the labor market isn't just shrinking, it's reshaping. Analytical, technical, and creative roles that involve working alongside AI are actually in higher demand.
So the message is less about AI taking all jobs and more about AI changing which jobs exist.
Exactly. Professor Suraj Srinivasan at Harvard put it perfectly. He said rather than solely eliminating jobs, generative AI creates new demand in augmentation-prone roles, suggesting that human AI collaboration is a key driver. The jobs that are growing require judgment, interpersonal communication, and decision-making. The ones disappearing involve structured, repetitive tasks.
But there's a really concerning finding about who's getting hit hardest. Stanford had some research on this.
Yes, and this is the part that worries me most. Stanford researchers found that the employment decline in AI-exposed industries is falling disproportionately on young workers. People under 25 are seeing the sharpest drops, while employment totals for older workers haven't declined in the same sectors.
That's counterintuitive in a way. You'd think younger workers would be more AI savvy and better positioned.
You would think so, but what's happening is that entry-level positions are exactly the kind of structured, trainable tasks that AI handles well. Junior analyst roles, entry-level coding, basic customer support, first draft content creation. These are the on-ramps into careers, and AI is paving over them.
So we're potentially creating a situation where young people can't get the entry-level experience they need to eventually move into the senior roles that AI can't do.
That's the nightmare scenario. If AI eliminates the bottom rungs of the career ladder, how do people climb to the top? The senior roles that require judgment and experience and human skills, those still need humans. But how do you develop those skills if you never get your first job?
This feels like it could become a generational crisis. What are companies actually doing about reskilling?
The Harvard research had a recommendation that companies should view AI as an augmentation tool rather than merely a cost-cutting measure and invest in reskilling programs. But the reality on the ground is mixed. Some companies are investing heavily. Others are doing the block playbook, cut fast, ship goose, and let the market reward you.
Let's talk about the stock market response because it's really telling. When Block's stock jumped 24%, that wasn't an anomaly. We've seen similar reactions for other companies that announce AI-driven restructuring.
Right. And this is where the incentive structure gets really troubling. If your stock price jumps 24% when you announce AI layoffs, the quarterly pressure to do more of the same is enormous. CFOs are watching Block's numbers and thinking, we could do that too.
And Fortune had that exclusive with Block's CFO explaining the 18 months of AI development that led to the decision. What was the reasoning?
The CFO basically laid out that over 18 months, Goose went from a productivity experiment to a core operational tool. They measured the output per employee with AI assistance versus without. And the numbers were compelling enough that the math became obvious. Fewer people plus AI equals the same or better output at lower cost.
There's also a geographic dimension to this that's worth noting. The U.S. is absorbing 80% of these global tech cuts, 24,600 jobs gone just domestically. Meanwhile, countries like Sweden lost 1,900, the Netherlands 1,700, India about 900.
That concentration in the U.S. makes sense when you think about where the biggest tech companies are headquartered. But it also means the U.S. labor market is absorbing the brunt of this transition. And unlike manufacturing job losses that hit specific regions, these are distributed across every major tech hub. San Francisco, Seattle, Austin, New York, they're all feeling it simultaneously.
Which makes the political dynamics interesting heading into the midterms.
Extremely interesting. You've got 45,000 tech workers losing jobs in a single month, many of them in swing districts, many of them highly educated voters. This is going to become a campaign issue very quickly.
Devil's advocate for a moment. Isn't this just the latest chapter in a story that's been going on since the Industrial Revolution? Technology displaces jobs. New jobs emerge. Society adapts.
That's the optimist view, and historically it's been true. The HBR data supports it to some extent. 20% growth in augmentation-prone roles is real, but I think there are two differences this time. First, the speed. Previous technological revolutions played out over decades. This is happening in months. Block went from experimenting with AI to cutting 40% of its workforce in 18 months.
And the second difference?
The second is breadth. Previous automation waves hit blue-collar manufacturing jobs primarily. This wave is hitting white-collar knowledge work. Software engineers, financial analysts, marketers, writers. These are people with college degrees and six-figure salaries who thought they were insulated from automation. The Harvard data shows a 7% reduction in skills required for automation-prone positions. That means the bar is getting lower for what AI can do, and it's rising fast.
Where do you think this goes in the next 12 months? Are we going to see more block-style restructurings?
I think Jack Dorsey is going to be proven right that everyone will be doing this. Not necessarily at 40%, but we'll see a wave of companies announcing AI-driven efficiency programs. The playbook is now established. Build or buy AI tools, measure the productivity gains, restructure around smaller teams, and let the stock market reward you.
And the policy response? The White House framework we've discussed before had a workforce section, but it was pretty thin.
It was thin, and that's a real gap. We're seeing the fastest workforce transformation in modern history, and the policy response is basically study it more and fund some training programs. Meanwhile, 45,000 people lost their jobs in a single month, and the number is accelerating.
There's also an interesting angle about the venture capital market here. AI startups raised record funding in 2026. OpenAI got a $110 billion round. Anthropic raised $30 billion. The money is flowing into building AI, but the companies deploying that AI are firing people. There's a real tension there.
It's a great observation. The venture money creates the technology, and the technology eliminates jobs at the companies that adopt it. And the returns have been phenomenal. AI startups accounted for 41% of the $128 billion in venture dollars raised on Carta last year. That's a record share. So the financial incentive to build more powerful AI tools that automate more work is enormous and only growing.
For people listening who are worried about their own positions, what does the data suggest they should be doing?
The data is pretty clear. Move toward the augmentation side of the equation. Skills that make you better at working with AI, not competing against it. Judgment, interpersonal communication, complex decision-making, creative problem-solving. And honestly, learn the AI tools themselves. The people who are thriving are the ones who've become force multipliers. One person plus AI doing the work of five.
Become the person who uses AI, not the person AI replaces.
Exactly. And I'd add, be realistic about timeline. This isn't something that might happen in 5 years. Block went from experiment to mass layoffs in 18 months. The clock is ticking for every industry.
Heavy stuff, Laura, but important for people to hear. The data tells a nuanced story. Jobs are being destroyed and created simultaneously. The question is whether we can manage the transition fast enough to avoid leaving millions of people behind.
That's the trillion-dollar question, literally. And right now, the market is rewarding speed over caution. That should concern all of us.
That's all for today's episode of the DX Today podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.